You are Locked On Warriors Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And tonight, trouble in Dub Nation continues as the Golden State Warriors fell again, this time to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 107-90 at Chase Center. The turnovers and missed shots characterized the Warriors' offense tonight, leading to their lowest point total of the 2024-2025 season. The offensive clunkiness is a huge problem. Steph Curry has not looked like himself while dealing with this bilateral knee soreness and had another off game. Is it time to panic in Warrior Land? We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed. Thanks also for tuning in on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed and making us your first listen following these Warriors games. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Charlie Walter does a great job. You can now start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. In this one, the Warriors, again, clunkiness by the offense just characterized this game from start to finish. You had two different quarters where the Warriors scored less than 20 points. Second quarter, they only scored 15. Fourth quarter, they only scored 18. And you had multiple long stretches tonight where the Warriors just could not buy a bucket. Three separate scoring droughts of 6 minutes, 4 minutes, and 4 minutes again tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And credit the Wolves, they did a very good job on the interior. Those bigs are really hard for a team like the Warriors to battle against. Rudy Gobert, say what you want about him. I think he's a giant softy for how physically dominant that guy should be in today's NBA. He plays pretty soft for a guy that big. Gets a lot of blocks funneled to him by the rest of his teammates. And Naz Reid is still another big body down there as well. So, I mean, those two guys are just massive, massive defenders. And trying to get anything inside with this very small lineup is tough for the Warriors. And tonight, the points in the paint, something that the Warriors are usually pretty good at, dominated by the Timberwolves. 44 points for the Wolves, only 30 for the Warriors, outscored by 14 in that category. Second chance points. Obviously, you know, the Wolves a lot bigger than the Warriors. They were grabbing a ton of offensive rebounds tonight. Warriors also got out rebounded, plus 11 for the Wolves in that category. But the second chance points were huge for the Wolves as well. 19 second chance points and only 8 for the Warriors. The Warriors really got outworked and out-hustled and just beat up in every single phase of this game. And this is a team that needs to rely on its defense to win. And defensively, I thought they played pretty well. I mean, you limit the Wolves to 107 points. It's not a bad night. But offensively, man, this 90 points, your lowest offensive output of the season. The Warriors' shooting percentage from the field just keeps going down night after night. Tonight, 39% from the field and just 28% from three-point land. 11 for 39 is not gonna get it done. I think they need a reevaluate what they're doing out there on offense. You cannot just keep chucking up threes like this and praying that they're gonna fall. This is not the same Warriors team that it's been in years past, where it's just a 3-point missile barrage all night long until they all start falling in. And that's just not gonna happen with this team. That is not how this team is gonna win games. And Steph right now looks off. I mean, something about the shot, the legs just don't look quite the same. I mean, he's not getting the same lift on his shot when he's pulling up from deep. It just doesn't look quite the same. It looks a little more flat. He's only 6 of 17 from the field tonight, 3 of 9 from three-point land, and 23 points on those 17 shots. It is not what we are used to seeing from Steph Curry. And the other thing we talked about in the open, 22 turnovers, man, just way too many. And some of those turnovers tonight, like the Warriors generally play a style of basketball that prompts a lot of turnovers. But tonight, man, some of these passes, some of these cross-court passes that the Warriors, throw ahead passes on breakaways, just wild, absolutely, completely wild. And those are the exact types of turnovers that Steve Kerr has talked about again and again and again, about how the Warriors need to cut these down in order to win games. And 22 is a lot of turnovers just in general, but the timing of some of these turnovers could not be any worse. Just absolute momentum killers when the Warriors are are surging back and finally pull within 3 points in the third quarter. And again, in the fourth quarter, the turnovers just start cropping up again. I mean, you had I think it was like 6 turnovers in the third. You had like 5 or 6 in the first, just turnovers all throughout this game. And again, in horrible, horrible, horrible moments. You heard Steve Kerr call out Brandon Podziemski in after their last loss. And it was rough. I mean, the turnovers that Pods has had, he hasn't had a ton of them, but they have been in really bad moments. And again, the Warriors just everybody on this team, there was not a single guy who didn't have a bad turnover tonight, except for Kyle Anderson and Andrew Wiggins. Those are the only 2 Warriors who did not have a turnover tonight. And Andrew Wiggins only played half the game. So I'm sure that if he had continued to play, it was Andrew Wiggins did have turnovers. It was Kevon Looney, of course. Kevon Looney and Kyle Anderson, only 2 guys tonight without turnovers for the Warriors. Kevon Looney just couldn't be a better glue guy if he was made of glue himself, if he was made at the Elmer's glue factory itself. But Kevon Looney is 22 minutes tonight, not enough when you're playing a lineup that's this big. I get that this game got kind of out of hand at the end, and you don't want to run Looney into the actual ground with how much he's just being utilized through this stretch of the schedule, where it's just Kevon Looney against every all-star big man from the West, it seems like, through this absolute gauntlet of a schedule that the Warriors have in the end of November / early part of December here. It's just been a lot for the Warriors to try and figure out these lineups. Again, we see another starting lineup different tonight, and there's just been no rhythm. Offensively, it has hurt the Warriors a lot that they just have had zero continuity on the offensive side of the floor, and it really hurts not having DeAnthony Melton. We gotta say it again, it's worth repeating. Not having another primary ball handler besides Steph Curry, and I mean, Draymond Green functions as a primary ball handler a lot, but a lot of the time those 2 guys are on the floor together, and it leaves the second unit without a true point guard to run the offense. I mean, Brandon Podziemski is sometimes running that, but he's in the starting lineup right now. So when he's out there with the starters, who's running that the point for the bench? We've seen an increase in Pat Spencer minutes. But I don't think that's a long-term solution, and I don't think anyone else thinks that either. But, Buddy Hield, I don't really want Buddy being the primary ball handler. We've seen issues with him all season long with that, all career long for Buddy Hield. It was a nice, fun start to the season with the Splash cousin Buddy, the stepbrother, Splash stepbrother Buddy Hield in the beginning of the year, but he has kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. 4 points tonight, 0 of 2 from 3-point land, only 13 minutes, and 3 turnovers in those 13 minutes. The defense is back to looking a little bit more out of control than just really good hustle. And that's what you're going to get with Buddy. I mean, we know who he is at this point in his career. With as good of a shooter as he is, he will bounce back and he will get red hot again. But this is who Buddy is. He is inconsistent. And yeah, he makes a ton of threes over, any one particular NBA season, but he's also going to miss a lot of threes. And if you zoom in on any particular, stretch of games, he could go ice cold for a week or 2 and then just absolutely scorcher for another, week or 2 after that. So right now we got the cold Buddy Hield after getting the super hot Buddy Hield to start the season. And there's just nobody on this Warriors team right now that is really given them a whole lot of anything. I mean, Andrew Wiggins goes to the locker room after picking up an injury early in the third quarter, does not return. Moses Moody also heads to the locker room in this one. It did not return with an injury. We'll check out for some injury updates if anything comes across before the end of the show. And Jonathan Kaminga, after a great night last night, we weren't going to expect, another 33 points, a career high from Kaminga in back-to-back nights, but he goes right back to being pretty inefficient, 6 of 15 from the field, only 13 points on those 15 shots. That is never good when you take more field goal attempts than you end up with points. And 3 turnovers. He only had 2 rebounds. He was not the same level of active. And we talked about this on our last show. The chemistry between Curry and Kaminga is just non-existent right now. And they really need to figure out a way to develop that. We've seen spurts. We've seen quick little brief moments. Early in this one, Kaminga made a nice pass to Steph when he was cutting, and Steph smoked the layup, which he's been doing a lot this year, man, and that's kind of concerning to me. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But, I mean, that was a great feed by Kaminga, and things like that are encouraging didn't result in any points because, again, the layup didn't fall, but that's a winning basketball play within this offense that you want to see Kaminga make more often. And those are things that are good signs, but ultimately we're not seeing enough from him. I mean, night in and night out, it's not enough. I mean, the Jonathan Kaminga legacy game that he gave us against the Rockets, great, phenomenal. I loved what we saw from him. And it was amazing that he was able to do that without Steph and without Draymond. And he was able to just put the team on his back and go. But more and more and more, it's seeming like that is the only way that Jonathan Kaminga can find offensive success is when Steph isn't out there. And that's a very concerning thing to me because that is not how this Warriors team is going to be its most effective this season. That's not going to be how the Warriors go and win playoff games. You need to have both of these guys be able to be on the court at the same time and terrorize opponents with them, with the spacing that should generate, and with Kaminga's cutting ability and ultra world-class athleticism. This should be a no-brainer in how the Warriors are able to get this going. But they can't. And for whatever reason, it just is not working out. Jonathan Kaminga has been a little bit slow to adapt to this offense, and his chemistry with Steph has suffered. And whether you want to attribute that to his lack of consistent minutes or whatever you want to attribute it to, it's a problem. And I think it's a big problem that it seems like Jonathan Kaminga's best self is when Steph Curry is not on the court. I think that's a massive issue if this guy is supposed to be your number 2, your second best scorer on the team. Tonight, we got another different starting lineup with Draymond Green coming off the bench and went with Steph, Brandon Podziemski, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kaminga, and Kevon Looney as your starting 5. And it just looked off, man. It just looked clunky. Again, all those wild passes just going nowhere, going 10 feet over the intended target's head, out of bounds. It is just not what you want to see from this offense. The assists, only 20 assists for the Warriors tonight. That's never going to be enough for this Warriors team. Maybe some nights, but definitely not when you're playing against the Timberwolves, who are a very good defensive team. Their interior defense, we already talked about that, but then on-ball defenders too. Jaden McDaniels and Ant Edwards are just menaces on the perimeter. Excuse me. And Ant Edwards tonight, man, just played like a man possessed. We know Ant's got that dog in him, and tonight he showed it. Let's talk a little bit more about that on the other side, and also some more of these Warriors problems. Is it time to panic, man? Like, are Steph's struggles a real long-term issue that the Warriors are going to need to address? The offensive slumps, how do the Warriors get these fixed? We'll talk about all that and more next here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. The terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight the Warriors fall again. They've now lost 5 of their last 6 to the Minnesota Timberwolves, or 6 of their last 7, losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves 107-90. I'm just taking a quick peek at the chat here. Frankie says the Warriors are going backwards, and yeah, man, they are. Earlier in the season, starting this year, the Warriors were in the top 5 in the NBA in defensive rating and offensive rating. Well, their defensive rating is holding up. They're still in that top 5, number 4 in that defensive rating, not up in the number 1, number 2 area, but offensive rating, they are falling down. They have fallen not just out of the top 5, but completely out of the top 10. They're now number 13 in the NBA, heading for pretty much the middle of the road as an offensive team. Their points per game and field goal percentage have also dropped pretty dramatically. I mean, the Warriors offense just does not look the same. It looks clunky. And tonight, there are a few things that I want to get into as to why I thought that was the case. First, let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves defense, because this team is a very, very, very complete, solid team. I know that they had a slow start to the season, but this is, I think, going to be, again, one of the teams that we see in the Western Conference Finals this year. This team is absolutely stacked, and Anthony Edwards is, for my money, the future face of the NBA. I mean, Wemby is the alien, just ultra athletic freak over in San Antonio, but Anthony Edwards, for my money, is the future face of the NBA. I'm not saying he's going to be better than Wemby, but he's going to be the more marketable guy. He's the guy who just gives you those absolute insane posters. Talking about his dunk on the entire, I think it was the Pacers team the other week. Just some of the sound clips that we get from Edwards saying, he was asked to describe that dunk. He said, I dunked on their A. And I love Ant Edwards. This guy, I hate that he's not a Warrior. In that draft where the Warriors ended up with James Wiseman, I know they didn't have a chance to draft Ant because he was gone before they got the opportunity to, but my God, it would have been so fun to have Ant Edwards in a Warriors uniform. He would have been amazing with the Warriors, and we can talk about that till I'm blue in the face. That topic has been thoroughly discussed. But what they did tonight, what the Timberwolves did tonight on defense, made it really tough for the Warriors. And the Warriors, shooting below 30% from three isn't really going to do yourself any favors. But there was nothing easy. Shout out Zaza Pachulia, nothing easy for the Golden State Warriors tonight. The T-Wolves closing out on absolutely everything. The on-ball defense on the perimeter was great, and they gave absolutely nothing away in the interior. That inside-out defense, only allowing the Warriors 30 points in the paint, is really, really impressive. This is a Warriors team who, despite their small size, always seems to get their action in the paint. They do leave a lot of shots at the rim. We talked about that a lot after the last show. Andrew Wiggins leaving a dunk at the rim tonight. He did get fouled on that alley-oop, but in the first half before he came out in this one. But man, I just want to see guys finish at the rim with this Warriors on the Warriors offense. But the Timberwolves making it very, very, very tough for them tonight, doing everything they could defensively to limit those things. They had 6 blocks, 12 steals, and again, forced 22 Warriors turnovers. So forced some of those turnovers. The Warriors kind of just threw a lot of those away themselves. Not a whole lot of forcing anyone to throw the ball, 10 rows up into the stands at Chase Center. But the Warriors tonight, again, not doing themselves any favors, even though the Wolves played good defense. But the three-point shooting, I think, is a problem at this point, because the Warriors offense seems to be predicated so much around this three-point shooting when Steph is in the game. We saw the Warriors play with a completely different offensive strategy. It was much more without Steph when they won in their game against Houston. They were much more simple on offense. They were doing just really simple ball screens, get the good switch that you want, hunt the switch, and that's what they were doing against the Rockets with Fred VanVleet on the Rockets defense. They just kept trying to get Jonathan Kaminga in the switch with him and attacking at the smaller defender. And tonight, there were plenty of opportunities that I saw, like Mike Conley guarding Jonathan Kaminga, and there he goes just deferring out to Steph so that we can chuck up some more threes, even though everybody on this team is ice cold from three-point range. I think this offense just needs to be dumbed down a little bit. Like, the split action is great. The elevator doors are fun. The pin down's awesome. Like, the off-ball screens where Steph is running around and just catching and throwing up 30-footers, amazing when it's working. When it's not, you get a lot of this. A lot of clunky offense, a lot of passes that just look like, where the hell was that going? And you have a lot of just head-scratching moments where you're like, why the hell did you not just take it at the smaller guy? Jonathan Kaminga is ultra athletic and in his early 20s. Mike Conley is as old as dirt, not quite as old as dirt, but he's been in the NBA for 18 seasons. You get what I'm saying. Jonathan Kaminga should go at that little guy and get to the rim no problem every single time that he has a defender like that against him. And I'm not saying that we need to just move away from Steph as the catalyst of the offense. That's not what I'm saying. I think that you just need to take some of the pressure off of him. You need to not put so much of the weight of this offense on Stephen Curry's shoulders. It shouldn't, if Steph has an average night, it shouldn't just doom the Warriors to a loss. I mean, we talked about this at the beginning of the season. The Warriors did a great job of getting scoring from other places, and it seemed like it was coming from a different place every night. Some nights it was Buddy Hield. Some nights it was Moses Moody. Some nights it was Wiggins. A lot of nights it was Wiggins in the beginning of the season. Some nights it turned into Kaminga later on in the last couple weeks. Brandon Podziemski has had some bright moments. Melton, before he had the season-ending ACL, he was having some great games with the Warriors, pouring in some bench scoring and even getting in some starter minutes alongside Steph. But right now, I mean, you don't really have that. No one on this team, no one on this bench is really playing above their weight. Lindy Waters has completely fallen back down to earth. 2 of 7 from three-point land for Lindy tonight. And the Warriors, they don't have any chemistry on offense right now. The only chemistry they seem to have is Steph Curry go out there and just chuck up some threes, and we can play a nice two-man game with Draymond. And that, while that's great, and go back to the well for sure when you need to, and that's always going to be there, you got to have something other than that. And it seems like when Steph is off and he's only shooting 3 of 9 from 3 or 6 of 17 from the field, it seems like they don't have another way to shift the offense and shift the game plan and refocus and just do something a little more simple, like hunt those switches, hunt those smaller defenders, those plus matchups for guys like Jonathan Kaminga, like Andrew Wiggins. Let's hope that injury isn't too bad that caused Wiggins to come out early in the third quarter. But you got to figure out another scoring option other than Steph. And again, we don't need to go into we spent a lot of time in our last show talking about trade targets. I know that there's been a ton of stuff in the national NBA conversation about the Warriors trading for LeBron James, but I absolutely do not think that is a realistic thing at all. Like, maybe that would be fun for playing 2K GM kind of thing, but I don't think LeBron James is just leaving LA, with his life all set up down there and with Bronny in the building. I know he's in the G League and all that, but I don't think that after the offseason that he had, where he pretty much funneled his own son to his professional basketball team, that he's just going to up and leave a month or two later. I have a really hard time seeing that happen. I don't think LeBron needs to go chase a ring at this point in his career. I think he can be totally fine with being on the 500 Lakers, and that's just going to be okay for him. But I don't think that that's going to happen. But I do think that the Warriors need to go get a second guy alongside Steph. There is just no consistency on this team for who the Robin can be to Steph's Batman. Some nights it's Wiggins, but he's shown time and time again throughout his career that he cannot sustain that level of play. I was really hoping that this season, after he had moved on from all of the off-the-court things that were going on in his life, the very horrible off-the-court things that were going on in his life these last couple of years with his family had subsided, that he could maybe just pour himself back into basketball, and that would generate a net gain for Andrew Wiggins, a much better season for him this year. I was hoping that would be able to allow him to just lock in and be that former number 1 overall pick that we know he can be. It's just not working out the way that I saw it in my mind's eye in this in the summer. So, I mean, some nights Wiggins has been able to step up, but again, there's no consistency with this team for who this number 2 scorer can be night in and night out, and the Warriors really need that right now because Steph does not look like himself. And I am starting to get concerned. And because of that, it's making my panic meter go up a little bit at a time, just a little bit. So let's talk about that next. Steph Curry, are his struggles giving you concern? And are you concerned about this team in general and the direction that it's headed? Again, they've lost 6 of their last 7 games and got the Wolves coming up again next. So it's not getting any easier. Let's take a quick break here. Let's talk about those things next here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Tonight, the Warriors 107-90 lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Warriors now not so proud owners of 6 losses in their last 7 games. It's not the direction you want to be headed. The Warriors are now 13-9 on the season, and that's just not. I mean, the record looked a lot better about a week or two ago. And in this time, We've seen the Warriors shooting percentage just absolutely plummet. And we've seen a lot of games from Steph where he just does not look like Stephen Curry. The shot does not look the same. He does not look like he's able to get free from defenders the same way that he's normally able to. I mean, he's still able to do it to an extent, but it's not the way that we're used to seeing Steph do it. And again, 23 points from Steph Curry tonight, and he took hold on one second, excuse me. He took 17 shots, and I just don't understand why the efficiency has been so bad with Steph tonight, and not just tonight, but all season long. I mean, 23 points on 17 shots is very un-Curry-like, and he just looks out of sorts. I think that bilateral knee soreness injury that he's dealing with is a big deal. I think that that's really affecting him, and especially late in games and his ability to close. So I think that that's a big problem right now with the Warriors. And as we've said before, when the Warriors are missing all these shots, it's not they don't really have something to adjust to right now. Steph this season over 16 games, 22.6 points per game, and it's a lot. I mean, that's just not what we're used to seeing from him. Again, his field goal percentage a little bit down, 45%. From his career average of 47%. His three-point shooting a little bit down from his career average. He's only at 41.9% as opposed to his career average of 42.5. It's just not been the same Steph Curry that we've seen. While these are all slight dips, just very, very slight dips in what we're seeing from his averages, I think you can see it visually with your eyes when you're watching this guy out there. He just looks off, man. And I think that he still has that magic, though. You see it in moments. I think the Warriors just need to be able to find another way to score and take some of this pressure off of Steph. You cannot just have him go running around out there for 35 minutes and taking 35 shots in those 35 minutes and making, half or more of them. That's just, he's 36 years old. He's done this for a long time. You've got to find another way to score. You cannot just run Steph's knees into the ground. It's concerning to me that we're already dealing with something that seems like it's going to be an injury that Steph's going to have to manage for the entire season in December. There's a lot of season left to play, and the Warriors don't really seem to have an option to lean on when Steph isn't there, except for Jonathan Kaminga, who seems to play his best basketball when Steph is out of the lineup. But again, you want to be able to maximize your best players on the court at the same time and give yourself the best lineup, especially in these closing situations. It's been a big issue for the Warriors is finding ways to score in down the stretch in the fourth quarter. And another bad fourth quarter scoring wise for the Warriors tonight. They got just blown out by the Wolves in that fourth quarter, 29-18. So you lose that quarter by 11, and you have two quarters of scoring less than 20 points in the same game. You're not going to win in today's NBA like that. You have to find another option. So my panic meter for the Warriors on a scale of 1 to 10 is probably at like a 6.5 right now, maybe even a 7. I am getting worried about this team. In the beginning of the season, I had a lot of confidence that this team was going to work out, and the D'Anthony Melton injury really changes how I feel about this team. Without that secondary ball handler, it really limits the way that you run this offense with the second unit, and it really limits the way that ball moves around and the assist numbers, and all those things cause chaos for opposing defenses, which lead to the Warriors being able to do what they want to do on offense. None of those things are happening right now. D'Anthony Melton was low-key one of the most important Warriors on this roster going into this season, whether or not people realize that going into this year or not. He was really the key to unlocking this bench in the second unit. Without him, this bench is not the best bench in the NBA anymore. It's not. And you can see it out there. The chemistry is lacking. And it's not just the bench that the chemistry is lacking. It's really this whole team. The starting lineup, weird tonight. Looked pretty weird having Draymond Green not out there. And he's dealing with some stuff too, injury-wise. So maybe it's trying to limit some of the wear and tear on a Draymond Green, who played a lot at the 5 against the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. I'm sure that banged him up a little bit. With the Warriors, ultimately, the defense was not the problem tonight. 107 for the Minnesota Timberwolves is pretty solid. Yeah, you let Anthony Edwards go get 30 points. He's Anthony Edwards. He's one of the best players in the NBA. That's allowable. You didn't really let the bench hurt you at all. You kept everyone else, fairly limited on the Timberwolves. but you couldn't find anyone else to score besides Steph. The next leading scorer, Kaminga, with 13 points on 15 shots. That is not going to get it done. It's just absolutely not. So the Warriors, again, need to find a second scoring option. We've talked about this ad nauseum for the last couple of weeks. Needs to happen. They're supposedly hunting for a big star. Shams Charania reported that for ESPN earlier today, saying that the Warriors are going star hunting to try and pair someone with Steph Curry. And again, the name LeBron James keeps getting thrown out there. I'm not buying that for even a millisecond. I think a guy like Cam Thomas is a good target for the Warriors, and I think that they should go and get Cam Thomas from the Brooklyn Nets. I think that Cam maybe changes the scoring dynamic. It doesn't help you really with needing a secondary ball handler for that bench, but it sure as hell helps you space that floor with Steph and gives you a lot more scoring from beyond the arc when Steph's not feeling it. Again, 3-9 from Steph tonight, 11 of 39 for the Warriors as a team from three-point land, just 28%. The shooting average, the three-point shooting percentage, all of these things plummeting for the Warriors since they started the season in the top 5 in the NBA in points per game, in field goal percentage, in offensive efficiency. All of these categories just absolutely free falling right now for the Warriors. And it's a major problem, major problem. I'm very concerned about Steph's ability to continue to play at a high level for the rest of the season. This bilateral knee soreness is going to linger for him, and they got to find a way to take some of this pressure off of Steph going forward if they want the season to go back to what it was a couple weeks ago and not what it's been for the last 2 weeks. It's all the time that we got for you guys today. The Warriors, their next game, playing the Timberwolves again. A little bit of a baseball series here. That's a couple days from now on the 8th, 2 days from now, and that'll be at 5:30 p.m. At Chase Center. So the Warriors fall to 13-9 in the loss to the Timberwolves. 107-90 again at Chase Center. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Locked On Warriors postcast. That's all the time we got for you guys today. I'm your host, Eric, Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.